Where there is love, there are always miracles. That's a quote by the American novelist Willa Cather, and it really describes the energy of Pluto stationing retrograde on May the 4th through to October 14th. And as he stations retrograde, he will come into a very tight sextile to Venus, the goddess of love. You put Pluto and Venus together, and you end up with the good old Huey Lewis and the new song, The Power of Love. Yes, from the movie Back to the Future as well. And also to add spice and juice to the story, and I cannot believe this is happening, Asteroid Abundantia for abundance, thrival, and growth and prosperity and goodness is sitting right beside Venus and Neptune, all in a triad together, talking to Pluto as he heads back into the shadow of where he has traveled since January the 11th. This is an indication then, as he stations retrograde at 3 Aquarius and travels back to 1.5 degrees of Aquarius, that we're going to go back and look more closely at things that we've been dealing with in the collective and in your own personal life that relate to events and thoughts and feelings and directions and fears that you may have been having ever since Pluto was at the same degree on January 11th through until May the 4th. Now, these retrograde periods are around 5 months long every single year, and we get to go back in time, like back to the future, and recover, recapture, and redo something from Pluto's more profound inner shadow work perspective. Pluto can represent what gives us a great trembling, knee-shaking fear, the fear of God, well, the fear of the underworld God, is upon you, and he's God of what is hidden and unseen. And we're always afraid of what we can't see in the dark. And in this regard, when we see Pluto moving through Aquarius, I think a lot of people may be experiencing this journey over the next 2 decades until 2044 of a fear of others in the community, of others in our group, and others of our groups of belonging. But Aquarius also rules the fear of way others, like, okay, we're going to meet the aliens for the first time, just like when Pluto was in Aquarius before, and the conquistadors and the Spanish explorers met the Incas. Colliding civilizations. Probably in the next 20 years, we meet our first non-human alien form. When Pluto was in Scorpio, people were afraid of diseases, and they had like AIDS, and they had because Scorpio rules sexual organs, and also they had a fear of like serial killer, scorpionic, forensic science type stuff. And then when Pluto was in Sagittarius, well, my generation was born with, like my daughter's generation is born with Pluto and Sagittarius. And that was like the 9/11 time when there was a fear of planes falling from the sky, fear of, terrorists and people around the world, and ISIS and all of that. And I want to definitely shout out one of my favorite astrologers. She puts so much work into her channel, and I wish she was doing a lot better. Her name is Anastasia Does Astrology. And I was listening to her as I was going for a walk the other day this morning, actually, on a Pluto video she just put out, and reminding me, to remind you that Pluto can dredge up our deepest fears and bring us into contact with them so that we can observe them. And that often appears as Pluto goes direct as a fear of something in the outside world. Like I'm afraid of, the boogeyman that is under my bed, or I'm afraid of the aliens, or I'm afraid of Donald Trump. And I just saw that happen right now in my country of Canada. And what I saw happen was that we had an election, and the fear of Donald Trump, right? The fear of Donald Trump by Canadian boomers, particularly women. The metrics have been shown. I'm not making this stuff up, but boomers in general, first of all, in polls for the election, before the election, said their number one fear or number one reason for voting was going to be based on the fear of Donald Trump, the fear of Donald Trump. And the second one is so that the boomers said that, and the next strongest cohort was women boomers. And then you take it to the other side of the voting field for the Conservative Party, or what the young people wanted to do, and their number one thing was affordability, especially between 18 and 35, and then 35 to 55 still had affordability above fear of Trump. So where we have a fear of, where we are meshed in some kind of fear that may be rational or irrational, it does not matter. Fear it is not always serving us. If a bear's charging me or someone's head on collisioning me and I have to jolt with fear to move out of the way, to adjust my course, that's one thing. But often fear can come from something sort of simmering and deep and unconscious, and it sort of erodes away like battery acid at our lives, And so when Pluto's retrograde, everyone, May the 4th to October the 14th, this is your opportunity to look at about what has been giving you anxiety, fear, dark thoughts and darkness in your life since January the 10th. And instead of looking at it outside of you, like the fear of Donald Trump or the fear of your ex-husband or the fear of going broke or the fear of losing your job, go inward and look at the inner landscape of this, investigate it and clear it so that you can live a fearless life. And I want today in our video to cover this for your sign. This is too important. I'm not going to cover world events at this point. You can say, what happened since January 10th? That might have to retract and go inward and shift again in politics and world events and wars. What I want to do today is really work together on this retrograde of Pluto through Aquarius. This is the first time Pluto has retrograde through Aquarius and stayed within the bounds of Aquarius because, well, yes, Pluto came in to Aquarius in 2023 from March till June, and he came back again, in 2024. What January through to September 1st, what Pluto hasn't done is move forward in Aquarius and retrograde within the sign boundary of Aquarius, in this case from 3 degrees of Aquarius to 1.5 degrees. So we have a new experience. We have like Pluto just playing in one place, the water bearer who pours the healing waters upon humanity, the angel-like being with the cup. The water bearer is an intensely angelic or UFO or star people archetype. And it's something that Pluto in Aquarius often shakes up existing structures of alliances historically. The French Revolution, Pluto in Aquarius, the American Constitution building, and the aftermath of the Declaration of Independence, that was Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto in Aquarius was an industrial age in the 1700s. Pluto in Aquarius is every 240 something years. The fall of nations, the fall of Rome, societal structures will be dying and new things will be born. New alliances will be formed. In Canada, we're going into a time in which the Albertan government is going to do a referendum at this juncture to see if its people want to separate from Canada. That is a classic Pluto in Aquarius narrative. So we're moving into collective times, which the geopolitical landscape and the way countries will be creating new boundaries and borders, whether you like those boundaries or borders or not, are in play. Crimea probably goes to Russia. Gaza goes to Israel, sadly enough. So we're going to see land-drawn geopolitical alliances changing. The BRICS nation, which has been flourishing since 2023 as Pluto entered into Aquarius, is an exact example of the things that have happened historically when Pluto moves through Aquarius. This new economic alliances are also formed. So now that I've given you enough of the general gist of it, what I want to do is a few things. I want to talk about this idea of archetypes, and I also want to talk with Pluto and Venus about Sabian symbols. To keep it simple, there is a degree at which this is occurring. The station retrograde on May the 4th is happening at the exactly 3 degrees and some change of Aquarius. And then we round up to 4 degrees. And we talk about the meaning of the symbol, which I'm about to reveal. Before I give you the Sabian symbol for this degree, 4 degrees of Aquarius, let me say hello. I forgot to say hi. My name is Lori Lothian, and I'm using the Western Tropical Zodiac whole sign houses, those fixed stars and minor asteroids like the asteroid Abundantia. How can you not want Venus, prosperity, abundance, talking to the god of riches, Pluto? It's going to be good for some of us. Well, if you're interested in anything I'm doing and want to learn how to time your own life and become your own astrologer, be your own astrologer, time your best life, tagline for my Sky Reader course that I have now on the 6th time I'm teaching this is happening this year in the summer instead of the fall. I usually teach it every fall, but I'm traveling this fall. So come aboard for summer school, mid-June through to the end of July. I love teaching this class, and I will really invite you to take a look at the description of the course in my pinned to the comments and in my description box, and get on the early bird discount wait list so you'll know when enrollment opens and you'll get a discount code. Some of you might have already purchased my 2020 5 all signs bundle. That's 12 videos, 2 hours each with a separate PDF guidebook for each. And if you got them like, in the pre-sale or even like recently, because it's $66, well, now it's at a price it's never been for the month of May. Jump aboard and grab it. It's only $33 for that content. We still have more than half a year left. And I organize it. Each video is exactly chronological, quarter by quarter. So you can follow each through the year ahead, in chronological order for your sign. And why get the bundle? Share with friends and family. Listen for your sun, moon, and rising. Okay, so let's talk about Aquarius, 4 degrees. This is Diana E. Roche, Sabian symbol, a screen of prophecy. I'm sorry, I've lost the cover, beaten up, many years in my possession. And it says a Hindu healer. Yes, these were channeled in the 1930s, a Hindu healer, therapy. Now that's a keyword. The Sabian says a Hindu healer. Now we have a healer. We have a healer archetype connected to Venus, sitting with Abundantia, flowing in a luscious and positive sextile to Pluto, stationing retrograde in Aquarius. Well, there's something very healing and abundant about the way this whole story plays out over the next several months until mid-October. Oh, you're saying, but that doesn't make any sense. Venus is only here for a short time. Yes, but we call it the inception chart or the election energy. The moment something begins, anything that's in that chart relevant to the beginning, which is in this case, the beginning of the retrograde, and this is the only real relevant story, will bake in or like baking into clay in an oven, the themes of Venus Pluto over these months ahead, the power of love, but also the love of power. That makes me want to share this with you, just in case you need a little stimulation about this exciting time that we're going to be going through. I'm going to give you a little sound bite. Okay. I don't even need to share. I'm just going to turn my microphone around and remind you of Back to the Future. Retrograde Pluto is going back to the past. He's going all the way back and trundling to things that occurred since January 10th. But who does not love this classic goodie and oldie and goldie? Where did it go? It's this. Okay, I can't play it more than 30 seconds. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Ready? The power of love is a curious thing. Makes one man weep and another man sing. Now, it's a song, sure, but it really does say something about Venus Pluto. And you might want to go check the lyrics out. If I go more than 30 seconds, I get a copyright strike. So, and I have to take all my ads off my video. So hopefully that was under 30 seconds. And so I'm really excited by something so luscious that's going on in our sky. And I'm going to also mention then, what does Renn Butler say about this? Because, the Sabian symbol girl, she's interpreting it, right? Then she goes on to say key words for this particular symbol. Restoration, rejuvenation, unification, recuperation. Where do we need to recuperate? Where do we need to unify? Oh, in Canada, we're polarized. Where do we need to rejuvenate, restore? Where is there a cure, a panacea, a remedy that heals everything? Where is there magic and healing? Magic and healing, because the idea in the 30s would be a Hindu healer would be like mystical and magical, right? Not like an allopathic doctor. So there we go again. Where there's great love, there are always miracles. Renn Butler's coming on my channel in May. I hope you guys will be here for that. I'll put the video out when we record it. We're going to talk about the sky from an archetypal storyline. And in the archetypal universe, Venus Pluto, I have lots underlined here. It's one of my favorite books. I'm going to talk about the non-shadow side because Venus is sextiling Pluto, and sextiles are the nature of Venus and indicate this is meant to be a positive energetic between the goddess of love and money and the god of riches and the underworld and power. Deep, intense passions, renewing and regenerating forces in relationships, the power of love, and the drive to unite. And you'll see the themes that are right there in the unification theme of the Hindu healer in the Sabian symbol, the interplay of beauty and the beast. Now, he'll talk about primal feelings of love and attraction and deep and intense passion and the sense of positive fatedness operating in one's relationships and partnerships, there's regenerating forces in relationships. They mean love relationships, profound relationship understanding, emotional resourcefulness, big and deep heart, an embrace of healing, the healing power of love, and social healing. We need social healing right now. Where there's great love, there are always miracles. Willa Cather, American novelist, wrote about the prairies and the pioneer life. She passed away at the end of the 1940s. So there's all of that, an instinct for approaching dark or heavy situations with grace and kindness, and a capacity to love those in crisis, and an undying love that transcends all darkness, emotional death, and rebirth. So I'm not going to keep reading it. Like a dark side would be like fatal attraction. That would be a negative Pluto Venus thing. And, it would be trauma, relationship, trauma, sexuality, the fatal attraction movie, archetype, obsession, compulsion, jealousy. Those are shadow qualities. I doubt we're going to have the shadow showing up here by the nature of a sextile being Venus itself and ending up looking positive. We're going to go through each sign. I want to remind you, it is important to live, love, and laugh. Ever since the election video where I was traumatized by extraordinary hostile comments, I'm now with this motto. Can we all just live, laugh, and love? And here's my crow, who I just adore, and he's going to keep me company for all my videos in the future. Thank you, crow. You don't want to cross him. Okay, so he's my what do you call that evil eye thing? That you can't get to me now. Crow's protecting me. And I am shamanically trained, and crow is one of my totem animals. All right, guys, we're moving into the story of your sign. We're going to start with Aries. We're going to finish with a Pisces. I want to give you a delineation of your sky, May the 4th through to October the 14th, when the retrograde Pluto goes from 3 to 1 degrees of Aquarius. I want you to consider that Abundantia will bring abundance and fruitfulness to what Venus declares you need, because Abundantia also amplifies Venus. And I will talk about how this takes you back to January the 11th. That was when Pluto crossed the degree that he will retrograde back to now. So he's going back to the past and covering old territory that's already been your life story in love, in money, in fear of what outside of yourself, because Pluto retrograde is the inward journey. Go check out Anastasia does astrology. She has her own Pluto video out, which I quite enjoyed listening to. And this was on my recording schedule. It was great to see someone else getting ahead of it ahead of me, because this is coming out recording on Wednesday, April 30th for my Patreon community. This is coming out on Sunday, May 4th. But I love to shout out wonderful astrologers, and I'd love to have her on my channel. She does a lot of hard work, and she does a really good job. Okay. Also, finally, the Mystic Shaman Oracle. For each sign, I'm also drawing a card, because, of course, there's nothing more deep and profound and mystical than Venus and Pluto, and that will be fun to do to add to the astrology. And let's get going. I'm recording this now on Wednesday, April the 30th at 2:30 p.m. my time, and therefore I'll try not to go more than an hour, to finish at 3:30 as we go through your sign. So factor in about an hour more of material. Let's get going. And thank you to all the kindness that some of you shared with me after my election video fail, where I misunderstood the chart and misread something. And I thought maybe the minority win would go to the conservative government. And some people were very angry, but a lot of you were very kind. And the kindness has not gone unnoticed. And I even pinned one of the kindest comments to the top of my election aftermath reflections video. It's tough being out here making these predictions and being wrong sometimes. It's not I don't like to be wrong. I don't like to be attacked for being wrong. All right, so let's get, and also I will say one more thing about our election in Canada for you guys watching on the sidelines or other fellow Canadians listening today. I'm still taking note that Mark Carney's solar return chart had Mars fallen on the midheaven. That corresponds to approximately November of this year. There will likely be an unconfidence vote or something that could put him back out of power. And I'm saying that a few other people I've noticed, one of them being another astrologer. I know some people don't like Joni Patrice. She's a bit doomsy, but she also saw Carney coming in but leaving quickly. And I just someone sent me a tarot with Isabella, and she also in her Canada video, maybe put it out in February, talks about the person who takes over for Trudeau only being in power for a very short time. That looks like the astrology as well, but I'll follow up closer to the fall on that. I'm very gun shy now about election astrology. I just need to stay clear of trying to bet on an election, because otherwise I'll keep doing world astrology. All right, moving into your sign, Aries. Let's get started. All right, there's our sky. Let's cue it for Aries. Oh, I do not need Jupiter in there. Let's get rid of Jupiter. So I'm keeping it so simple so that no one could get confused. And I'll tell you why we're keeping it simple. This is a simple story. And sometimes astrology doesn't have to be cluttered and complicated. We're keeping it extraordinarily easy to read. And yeah, we have a bit of a wedge forming as well. So let's move to Aries and I'll explain the sky as I get it backwards. And it's happening on May the 4th. Pluto's a slow moving planet. The exact hour in the day, it's not going to be felt by you like, oh my God, I could feel the change. I don't think so. It's like the Titanic. Oh, sorry, that's a bad example. It's like, an ocean liner just navigating its direction slightly, right? And then slowly but surely things move in a new direction. So we'll see here that Pluto is at 3 degrees and 49 minutes in the afternoon on May the 4th. If I was to adjust that from 4:30 p.m. to about 6 p.m. or whatever, he'll be retrograde. This is in Vancouver, Canada. So just trust me that Pluto's retrograde. If I move a day ahead, it might even help just so it's clear. But then people say, yeah, so you see on May 5th, he's retrograding, but I'm going to keep it. I'm just going to keep it set for May the 4th. Okay. And Venus will be coming into the 3rd degree on May the 5th as well. So they'll be perfectly exact, but this is still an aspectually accurate sextile between Pluto and Venus. And there is Abundantia perfectly fused with Venus. So having this abundance asteroid is known to amplify what it touches. Venus is a benefic planet, fairy godmother, helping us heal a chironic war wound and many other wounds in Aries. Neptune adds the dreamy, the mystical, the transcendent, and the magical, and the miraculous. Where there is great love, there are always miracles. Do you need a miracle in your life? Do you need to see something turn around? And especially when an abundance of love, an abundance of money, an abundance of beauty in your life, an abundance of creativity, an abundance of artistry, an abundance of fertility. Venus can bring it on from the Aries part of your sky. But in her conversation with Pluto, she says, and it's profound, recuperative, regenerative, cathartic, renewing. These are Pluto words. And Pluto is riches, and Pluto is wealth, and Pluto is what is hidden, and Pluto is what is powerful. And of course, Mars is the ruler of what is going on in his kingdom. He says, hey guys, you're having a party in my house. That's what he says as he looks back over his shoulder. He's heading this way, leaves Leo June 17th. And he's looking backwards and going, oh my God, you guys are having a big bash in my house. And you're talking to Pluto, who I have been tangling with. So one thing I'd say about this wedge formation, can you guys remember what it was like to go through your life around the first few days of November, just around the election, when Mars and Pluto were opposite each other, around up until about the 1st to the 3rd of November, when Mars and Pluto were opposite each other. And that was in the Cancer cap, but it's still axis, but it's still Mars Pluto opposite. And can you remember what it was like to be you around January 3rd, 1st to the 3rd, when Mars and Pluto were opposite each other yet again? In now here we go one more time, right? Oh yeah, Mars Pluto opposition has been playing out in all of our lives in the last week of April. And for me, it was being trolled to high hell. Not even just about the election. Trolls were coming out in droves just beforehand. That's because for me, it's happening in the house of my public. So where Mars is trolling. So you're going to say, oh, I'm coming off of the intensity. Mars has moved past an exact. He's no longer engaging Pluto especially, but now he wants some healing, right? The power of love, the power of something. This is the apex of a wedge. A wedge brings healing. Oh, but it's like the tension that existed here gets outpictured here. And of course, people like J.D. Vance and Donald Trump, both Leo rising, the nature of Iran, a Leo rising. Good news may be coming through with the Iran issues with their nuclear development and the U.S. intervening or engaging with Iran to avoid a nuclear war or to avoid an upset that the nation of Israel is dying to get going. Israel wants war with Iran. It wants war with all of its neighbors for geopolitical strategic reasons. And I think maybe that this is going to turn out that doesn't happen. Then in terms of Donald Trump or Vance, both have Leo rising, or China, which is an Aquarius rising. China, Trump, tariffs, trade wars, cessation of hostility, denouement, release into something more peaceful. The Gaza thing could come to more peaceful outcomes as well. I mean, I'm skeptical, to tell you the truth, but the very best I can say is Neptune comes into the stories of watery areas of the world. And that's, of course, the Gaza Strip. And Venus is trying to make peace in the sign of war. And it is the eclipses that went through Aries and Libra that led to the war outpicturing in Israel starting in 2023. And therefore, this is where the war started. This is where the war could end. So let's cross our fingers that we have healing of chironic wounds around war. In many of my videos, I talked about 1968 when we had student protests and sit-ins against the war in Vietnam. We also had the president stepping out of power, Lyndon Baines Johnson, and letting Hubert Humphreys, as vice president, run for him, and the DNC convention in Chicago, and the fall of the president, vice president running for president, just like Harris, and the assassination attempt of assassination of Martin Luther King and what's his name? Unaliving, that's the right word for you. Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy Sr. This is a replay. We're in chironic wound traveling through Aries with eclipses there, just like in 1968, 69. Well, guess what? That's what 2024, 2025 is repeating. Student sit-ins and protests against the situation in the Middle East. And every other story. It's just a rinse and repeat. What I like about this sky is it could bring a peace deal to that situation in some way. Crossing fingers, anyone praying for miracles, let's do that. All right, Aries, we're going to do you personally now. We're no longer going to talk about general principles. Clear all the drawings. Aries, sun, moon, and rising sign. I have a sun and moon here, so I can relate. We're going through a time here where we've been going through a kind of a shadow period since January 11th or so regarding the anxiety, the fear, the dark side of the 11th house. Now, the 11th house has a lot of meanings. One is friends who support you, or a sibling one older, groups of belonging, allies, benefactors. Some of that for me has felt really intense, just around my social circles and my social groups, and not really fitting in the way I would like to, and really not finding myself, not a fear of my social groups, but I don't know how you were feeling, but kind of like looking at the more dark underbelly of the choices I've made in terms of the people I have chosen to associate with sometimes, basically. It's also the house of career gains, and also the house of what you dream and want to have happen in your life, your long range visions. And you might be looking at it in an anxiety, fear way since January 10th, maybe kind of having to struggle a little bit with what you really desire in the long game of your life, and maybe even when it comes to your career gains. And the retrograde period will help you smooth that out. I even had a dream about myself last night, and this is building for this turnaround. And it was really clear that I needed to move into more creativity and spark of joy in my life, and not just be working all the time, creating content, teaching classes, or seeing clients. And that's a long range vision for one's life, the 11th house. Now, Pluto here can be very intensely activating when you have a sibling one older than you, if you do. And that relationship with that sibling may have taken on some Pluto overtones, control, power struggles, maybe starting in January 11th or so, or those power struggles and control issues with groups of belonging, your friends or allies, people who you thought were your friend. One thing I'll say is that Venus is going to activate something to do potentially with career wealth and career power here, because that's where Pluto sits, and Venus is in the first house of your identity, or your sun. Your sun is your career, and your moon is your feelings about things. So keep that in mind, or your home life. But because Pluto's at the top of the sky and was kind of in a career home, like receiving the benefits of your 10th house of career, you're going to be powering up. And this is going to be an indication that between the May 4th and October 14th window, which reminds you of your life, January 10th until May 4th, you're going to be going inside yourself and looking at the shadow realms. You're introspecting. It's not the outer stories that you're pushing against anymore. It's your inner world. And there's ways in which you are going to find a new source of abundance in your sun, career, your moon, your home life, and in your rising sign, any area of your life you wish to find yourself feeling fruitful, abundant, and thriving, and renewing and regenerating some longer range dreams and goals, as well as increasing your financial gain as a result from the place of career. Certainly, I cannot see how this does not make you feel far more luscious and abundant, like a flower opening to its fullest. But in order to maybe really receive that, you need to spend those 5 months ahead May, June, July, August, September, engaging in a deep introspection as well. Now I'm going to pull a shamanic, and then Mars says, can you get creative? Can you get inspired? Now, if it's about love, and it could be, are you ready for a new love relationship that fires you up on all cylinders, that heals a romantic wound, a sexual wound? You may be wanting to really restore your romantic energy, but you're having to go deeper within yourself. Mars is in the house of romantic love and sexual love. And is there any chance that friendship and romance are both it's not an either or, it can be an and. I can be that person's friend, and I can be that romantic partner as well. So because Pluto is in the house of friends, and Mars is in romance, and there's some deep, profound inner healing going on for you. I'm going to grab this right now for you. And we're going to pull a card. Oh, fertility. Are you thinking of making a baby? Well, this is interesting. You can kind of see that could indicate also going through some shadow terrain around fertility and pregnancy. That's because Mars is in the house of baby making, and Venus procreativity, and Venus is in the first. And do you want to change an entrepreneurial business or start working on creative projects? Well, you're going to shift inwardly in order to experience abundance outwardly through art, writing, painting, dance, song, performing, entrepreneurship. Those are themes that we're rolling through as well. Your card, Aries, is card number 55. It's called Taming the Wind from the Shaman Oracle deck. And what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to read the medicine card. This comes in a kind of like, what is the medicine you need? Because certainly Pluto retrograde is going to be very much about some kind of medicine. Taming the Wind, 112. What's your medicine? Okay. 112. Woo. Come on up. 112. Okay. Well, in essence, by the way, the essence of it is taming the wind. Okay. I'm going to move away from that. It's also good. I don't know what to read. You know what I mean? Like, I love all of it. I'll read the invitation. Time to clear your energy, be present, and be conscious of how you communicate. It's time to write in a journal, put your thoughts into cohesive form. Perhaps you need to do a smudging ceremony. I did that out of my post-election video. And your home and office, create a sacred space to write about your dreams and your desires. Remember that when taming the wind as a symbol comes up, it's time to honor the great spirit with reverence and respect. Well, of course, I just told you your 11th house is about your long-range dreams and goals, where you're revising and rethinking stuff. The medicine is cleaning up misunderstandings with others, clearing the air after disagreements, allowing people to share their sides of the thing, each side sharing their perspective, being a good listener. It's not important to be right now. Let go of the need to be right. You know, the expression, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? It's time to understand rather than to be, it's time for you to understand rather than be understood. You'll be surprised at how things get resolved when you allow for all sides to have value. All right, there you go. And we're going to move on to the next sign. I'm loving this deck, actually, for what we're doing. I'm going to stop the share because I need a little nibble. I'll be right back. Well, that was delicious. I took 2 dates from Iran, organic. Yes, I'm sorry, they're from Iran. And I added 2 slices of manchego cheese and took the pit out and ate that. And then 2 pieces of elk salami and half an avocado, and I'm ready to go. Okay, we're moving on to Taurus. So there we are. That's some perfect midday snack. Of course, I'm telling Taurus that because Taurus is, as we get ready for your sign, you guys do love your earthly pleasures, mostly. Okay, let's roll and talk about you guys next. Well, guys, let's say this. If I can get this thing to move ahead by an hour, we'll be talking to you about this story. Pluto stations retrograde on May the 4th, and he will be at his station retrograde talking from here, your 10th house of career and reputation, to Venus with Abundantia in the 12th house. Now, there's an interesting story about the 12th house. It does bring money if you want some financial abundance, but you need to look at it from the lens of my career is attached to an international company, a foreign marketplace, foreign buyers, and far off distant shores. And that is like for today's income makers online, international digital income and revenue, for example, because you're using, payment processors, and there's no geographical boundaries to where the money comes from. However, this is also self-undoing. This is where you have that bad habit. This is where the weed, the vape, the cigarettes, the nicotine, the alcohol, whatever, it gets in your way. And so you've got a misuse disorder, substance misuse, or even an outright addiction. And what I love about this is Neptune is the god of drugs, but also addictions. And he's sitting with Venus and Abundantia for thrival and good things happening and cornucopias of goodness. And what I think that means is that you're going to be able to overcome or triumph over some kind of pattern or habit of self-undoing, whether it is a physical addiction or a habitual thing, or even just self-doubt. And, you'll see how you trip yourself up. I'm a saboteur of my own life. That's kind of your 12th house stories. And interestingly enough, Chiron is there, and he's been there since 2019, kind of like you've been coping with these things, looking at them closely, getting ready to get off those self-undoing habits and patterns. And I love Pluto because he's all powerful, dominating, rejuvenating, regenerating, rebirthing you from the 10th house of reputation and career. 10th house people will be with you for the next 10 to 20 years, right? Till 2044. And if you don't own your inner power, your inner Darth Vader, your inner mafia boss, your inner dominator, then you're going to be dominated by others. And those others, can be anybody. They can be your family of origin, daddy figures. It could be figures to do with bosses that are, really, really bossy. So you're going to have, I had Pluto going through my 10th house from my Aries rising position, my Aries sun, and I got involved with a bad guru and also a narcissistic boss at one point. So looking for those people that can control you from those power positions is a theme for the next 20 years. So watch out for that. But in the meantime, this is not that. This is Venus saying abundance, thrival, rejuvenation, rebirth. And it's connected to Mars in the house of childhood and family of origin. So some of you are really uncovering the roots of something that you've got going that isn't to your best advantage in life. And you realize, I learned it as a child, or I'm acting just like my mom, or this is coming from the ancestral line. And you're really ready with Mars's 4th house placement to really break free and break through this. But it's 4 months, 5 months. It's till October, May 4th to October 14th. How have you been dealing with those subjects I just brought up for you ever since January 10th? How has that been going for you? Because that story since January 10th until May 4th is what Pluto's going on the inside edge to deeply reinvestigate, so that you can go within or go without and clear it up within yourself. Is it the dominating boss? Is it the dominating father figure? Is it the power struggles in the work environment? Is the addiction, self-undoing bad habits and patterns not helping you succeed in a work environment, in a career direction? These are things that you are rolling back. Your reputation with Pluto might have been like dead in the water. Maybe some catastrophic intensity has ruined your reputation. But you're going to look at this like healing vibe between now and October for looking inside of yourself or regarding issues of what other people think of you. And you're going to birth a new sense of self in terms of other people's views and esteem of who you are. But again, Mars now in the 4th house could also be an indication that maybe between now and October, as you go within, you really ponder things to do with where you live. Maybe where you live isn't right for you. Maybe your living style, where you live, people you live with, the geographical location of your home even is somehow a part of your own escaping into oblivion with that Neptune Venus story. You can definitely be abundant and rich here in your ability to release, let go, and surrender parts of yourself that don't serve you, so you can renew and regenerate and rebirth yourself as a powerful new in a powerful new way in the career zone of your chart. Now, what we're going to do, and Venus is the Lord of your sign, so this is positive, is we're going to draw a card for you to see how between May 4th and October 14th, you're going back over the ground you've traveled since January 10th regarding those 12th house, 10th house themes. And what does the invitation and the medicine say for you in this shamanic, mystical shaman oracle deck? Oh my goodness. Okay. 2 came out at once and I don't have time to read both. So what I have to do is ask the universe. It's Jaguar and Standstill. I have to ask the universe to pick one. So maybe you have a Jaguar. It's Standstill. Jaguar totem. Standstill. Number 52. What is the invitation? It's funny because the 12th house is an inner work house. It's what you do alone at home. It's where you kind of like spend your downtime. It's your dreams at night sometimes, right? So it's not the external world anyway. Pay attention to your dreams over the next 5 months, especially because you might have some profound dreams that really open up your doors of perception here. Neptune can also say do hypnosis to get rid of an addiction, just so you know. So this is also, can check out the hypnotic arts for addiction removals. So the invitation is when things stall or stagnate, or if you feel stuck, this symbol tells you it's time. It's a reminder that constant action will not get you where you need to go. It's time to gather more information and wait until the universe makes the next move. No matter, and I agree, because Venus will not enter into your first house, for example, which she's the Lord of your sign, and be very useful to you anyway until early June. No matter what this moment is, it's a beautiful gift. Enjoy it. Let the universe bring all parts together for the highest good. Go recharge and play and take the focus over whatever has stalled. Life will get busy again sooner than you think. Now, the medicine for you over the next 5 months is to get out of analysis paralysis. Stand still, invite you to turn within, breathe, and recognize that this is the condition of the moment. It's like having the doldrums when you're a sailor, no wind is there. This is the opportunity to abort a project or to exit before damage. It may be the time to relieve yourself of an unnecessary burden that you took on without considering the cost. My Taurus son daughter is probably going to remove the burden of the job she hates. Okay. Then you can make your next move in a grounded, relaxed, and detached way. So it's like a pause, a standstill, a deep inner reflection. And I think that's effective because the 12th house is that inner solitude, the ashram, the inner journey anyway. And you're going to consider what you really value, what brings you true abundance, what self-undoing is getting in the way of your success. And then maybe also just relax a bit because, as you know, Pluto goes direct in your 10th house of career in October. That could be a beginning of a real flourishment. Now, it doesn't mean you need to wait that long for a job. Goodness gracious, no. But that will be beginning of some kind of new effective power within career and reputation status in your life. By the way, if you did want to travel far off foreign shores and distant lands or get away from it all, that's 12th house and 4th house. And some of you may even go away to escape reality for a while as you figure out your next move. Then we move on to the Gemini. My sun has progressed to Gemini because I'm 63. If you want to know how to progress a planet, like in a simple solar arc tool, take your ascendant, for example, or your sun and move ahead a degree a year from the time of birth and see what sign your ascendant is in or your sun. But yeah, that said, a progressed position will never be as powerful as the natal sky. Look for your natal ascendant, natal sun, natal moon before you ever look at a progression. All right, so only told you that because I sometimes talk about myself in Gemini and people get confused. So it looks to me like we have Pluto asking for a review between May 14th to October 14th, May 4th, October 15th, of events in your life that you've been going through in the outer world that have been difficult, maybe since January 10th. Now, your 9th house is a house of many things. It's a house of a third marriage. It's a house of foreign shores, distant lands, visas, legal and court affairs, higher education and academic settings, book publishing, spiritual belief and philosophy. It's the house of God. And you've been dealing with stuff since about January the 10th. And in this regard, Pluto may have made it look like outer obstacles in that part of your sky. But now he's going to retrograde and have you look within to see where the inner template for the outer obstacles is. What's the inner shadow work that you need to do around those 9th house matters? Now, literally, Venus says, I'm helping. I want to sextile in the onset and bring abundance. Well, that abundance in the 11th house is career gains. It could be more social influence, more celebrity, more financial gain, more salary, more financial increase from the work you're doing in your 10th house. And so all I can say is that because you might align deeper with Dharma, and Dharma is another meaning of the 9th house, one's true purpose, one's meaning of life, that alignment will bring more prosperity. And evidence of that will begin to surface for you between now and October the 14th. You may have an abundance here of new friends, an abundance of new goals and dreams. You're like flowering and flourishing here. The power of love and the love of power is important. You may have a love of power that is healthy, you want to have influence. The house of influence is the 11th house. Neptune rules Instagram, videography platforms, podcasts with video. And, there's a chironic wound here that a lot of Geminis have been working on since 2019. To use me as an example, although I've been doing YouTube videos since 2018, in 2019, I started Lunatic Astrology. One of the things I feel about a chironic wound in the 11th house of influence, maybe, I don't know, is trying to find the balance between my spiritual side, which is very woo, and giving people weather reports on the astrology. Sometimes I think I'm underutilizing myself, if you know what I mean. And maybe that is a new alignment where I come into some new synergy of how I approach astrology on YouTube. Mars is the owner of what Venus, the thrival goddess with Abundantia, wants. He's in the social media sphere of the third house. This is definitely good for your social media, outpicturing a resolution of dharma, purpose, and meaning with an increase of passion and intensity. But you have to go in. You still have to look at the shadow realm here. Where have you and were you perhaps deeply confused or deeply struggling in ninth house placements? That again could also be third marriage relationships. It could also be relationships connected to a sibling too older than you. It can also be problems with your pastor, your rabbi, your imam. I think that's what they're called, imam, and also maybe with people of spiritual authority. Maybe even having difficulty with your therapist. And so now you're kind of going inside of yourself to look at what this real issue has been about. And I'm going to draw a card for you guys too, because, even though Mars is in the social media house, he's also in the change of neighborhood house. He's also in the travel house, and Pluto's also in a travel house. And maybe travel or neighborhood changes can be extraordinarily powerful for the inward direction you need to go through to the middle of October in order to sort of come into alignment with deeper purpose and then have financial significant increase because of it in your career and reputation. You're retired. Okay. Do you need to re-enliven, rejuvenate, and rebirth your groups of friends and circles of belonging? Maybe you're not in the right groups. Maybe you need to realign your long-range dreams and goals and your values so that they're in alignment with why you're on the planet. This card I drew for you is number 38. It is called the Mystical Shaman. Now, this is interesting. This is a mystical shaman oracle. It must be like a primary card. Number 38. All right. There is no medicine for this card. The essence of the card. I'm not even going to bother reading it. Well, maybe I should. So this is a symbol of true alchemy, the mystical shaman. For all elements of life have a spiritual aspect and a material one. When we remember this, all manner of miracles and manifestations are possible. Remember, the Sabian symbol connects us to a Hindu healer, and one of the delineation is miracles, but so does that quote by Willa Cather. So manifestations and miracles. The invitation of the card is to consider the ability to live without attachment. You're called to create and dream your life, Gemini, to act on inspiration and divine impulse without fixating on stories you tell yourself and stories that you tell others. What if you could become a mystery to yourself? I love that. Who would you become if you stopped telling the tales that have defined you up until now? You do not have to live in a story that has its roots in the past. What if there was no need to explain to anyone, not even yourself? The way to the most extraordinary life now is to become a blank slate and allow the form of your dreams and desires to show up as it will. This is a sign of manifesting a life beyond your wildest dreams. Well, I'm going to tell you that the house of your visions, goals, and dreams for your life is the 11th house where Venus and Abundantia sit, healing a chironic wound. Maybe some of Geminis have trapped themselves in limiting beliefs, ninth house's beliefs about who they could be and what dreams they could actually create for their life. I leave you with that. Let me know how it goes. By the way, Mars is in the house of writing, Pluto in the house of publishing, and some of you may be compelled to honor a dream to write and publish as well, particularly books. All right, I'm going slow. My dream of getting this over by 3:30 my time was crazy. I'm at 3:20 because I'm at food break. If you like this kind of content and you haven't hit my like button or subscribed or commented on the video, please do so. Those small little gestures by you Subscribing, of course, is very important, helps the channel grow. All right, Cancer, sun, moon, and rising sign in the sky. It is Pluto going into retrograde shadow, like go backtracking over the old territory that he has been traveling since January 10th in your 8th house of chunky money. Now, chunky money meaning you're not earning it as a chunk. It's a tax rebate. It's an insurance payout. It's a stock investment. It's a capital gain. It's an inheritance. It's money you share with others. Stock holding is a shareholder position. Book publishing or royalty income or Google ad revenue shared with the other people that, the book publisher or the Google itself. So those kinds of shared resources are your 8th house chunky money. So Pluto is wealth and power here, but he's going back to reassess things. Your money you share with a spouse or a business partner belongs here. He's going back to reassess the kind of money that you have here and reassess it from at the angle of what you've been dealing with, maybe some anxiety and fear, maybe some trepidation and worry about your potency and your riches that you've been dealing with since January 10th. Now you're going to go inward and kind of remove the outdam spot, the blood blotch on your hands here, because this is a deeply karmic house as well. Partly with Pluto here, you might also be going deeper into the underworld. This is a house of mediumship, occult mysteries, disciplines like tarot cards, and maybe you're going to go under the surface of what you already know and investigate some more hidden realms as he goes retrograde through to October the 15th. Shadow work, though, can be really called forth from the house of the psyche, and you're really doing moksha liberation soul work here. How are you over-identifying with an egoic concept of who you are? How can you undo that because you're investigating what is hidden from view in your very own psyche? This is a psychological and spiritual placement. And you'll see that Venus wants to bring a career and reputation glow up, abundance, thrival, dreams come true, maybe chironic wound in the house of career and reputation. Now, ultimately, a father wound could have been up here too. And now you're looking at this profound shift, the power of love and the miracles that can follow this intensity of great love to heal some of your outer world public expression because of deep, deep dives into your psychology, your soul. Venus does rule the 4th house of your childhood. Some of you might be unplugging from childhood scarcity, stories that hold you back from riches. Mars is traveling through your 2nd house. Mars is in the house of earnings and financial gains by making money. And this is good for that because he is the owner of Venus, trining Venus, creating a wedge. You're breaking through some kind of blockage about the way money should come to you, about being abundant, about being powerfully wealthy. In some way, this is a turning point sky because Abundantia isn't subtle. It's here's some abundance coming from your career and earnings, Mars and Venus, but we have to unplug the shadow. Do you have some stupid shadow like, the root of all evil is wealth, is money? Because it's not. It's the love of money that's the root of all evil. Unplug some weird scripts from your childhood about money, wealth, and whatever. I recognize in my own life for a long time, I had a fear of making money because I saw my dad sell his soul to his pharmacy business. I felt like he lost touch with life, with having fun with his family and, didn't have a vacation. So I resisted to make money because I could become like my dad. Now here I'm an entrepreneur trying to undo that. So I'm just giving you an example. I want you to think about childhood stories around financial solvency, riches, abundance, money, your values around money, and undo those. Those are what the sky is doing. So you can be a success story in this world, but also profitable. Now, this is the card deck called the Mystical Shaman. And here for everybody, we get a card to help us navigate this 5 months ahead of shadow work. And you've got the Andean cross, like the Andes. Right now, I study with the bird people of the Andes, and I'm an initiated Yakshak shaman. Yes, I am. This is 2004. The Andean cross. Let's look at the Andean cross number 2. Pachamama anyone. The Andean cross number 2. The bird people of the Andes do not do psychedelics. They do their work by blowing fire and creating a hot cold response, a little bit like plunge pools and hot plunges, hot cold plunges. The ancient ones, no, we want number 2, which is called the Andean cross. So here's what we have: the invitation. This cross announces the start to a great journey. It's time for you to raise your gaze, Cancer, from the mundane day-to-day to that which until now has seemed beyond your grasp. All new wisdom to guide you, and stop trying to make sense of it all before you respond with a resounding yes. Well, I have to say the eighth house is one of the hidden houses. It's not the mundane day-to-day. It's a deep soul work house. Your medicine. The time has passed and the window of opportunity has closed. Now's not the moment to take a leap. To take that leap you have been over preparing for. It's rather best to wait until conditions in heaven line up to offer you a more propitious moment. So while you're revising your beliefs about wealth, don't jump into a new job or career path. Like, let this 5 months ahead be a deep dive into the underground here. Any bold actions you take now can require tremendous effort on your part. It's just as important as knowing when to act as knowing when to return to your inner stillness and wait for more favorable times. Well, clearly when Pluto goes direct, and the money story moves direct out of the eighth house. So take that with a grain of salt, of course, but as a general principle, maybe this is a 5 months of a stillness around the money story as you investigate your deep structures around finances psychologically. Hey, Leo, sun, moon, and rising sign. Kind of want to say here that you are dealing with a very dharmic placement with the Venus abundance in the ninth, and then also relational with Pluto in the seventh. How have you been in relationship on and off, perhaps since 2023 with Pluto here? That looks like dominating, controlling, obsessive and jealous love relationships. That could have been a story. Or attracting wealthy, powerful, but dominating people. As Pluto is going through here, he's reminding you of January 11th or so until May the 4th. These stories that you've lived through in relationship are now going retrograde. And therefore, these relationships are going to go backwards in some way, to be reinvestigated. However, because the seventh house is also the house of the other, your other may be going through something. If you already have a relationship, that means your partner will be going through something that maybe that they've been dealing with since around January 11th. And in the external world, it looked like they were dealing with an anxiety, a fear, a darkness, a challenge regarding power and struggles of power in their own life. And as Pluto retrogrades, they'll go inward as well. However, in a long-term relationship, or even if not, you've been dating people, there's a reassessment of the self and other, the I thou dynamic that you find yourself in. I mean, certainly with Mars in your sign, it indicates baking in decisive action and ability to charge ahead and move in the direction in long-term love and short-term love, even dating, about what you really want when it comes to being in relation with other. Now, if you have clients and audience and marketplace, seventh house is that, 10th from the 10th, then some dominating, powerful, and controlling or wealthy people that you've attracted have to be addressed. Maybe it's not all so great to have those people in your life. Having Venus up in the Abundantia Neptune story in the ninth house is wonderful for you if you're thinking of higher education, academic matters, winning in a court or legal matter. Venus says thrival, abundance, prosperity through those venues. You get accepted to your favorite school, you get a scholarship, you get to win the legal court and sign on the dotted line. Who knows? This is also a Dharma house, and you want to thrive and you want to be abundant in declaring, this is my calling, this is my purpose, this is the meaning of my life. And I think with Chiron here, you've been dealing with that question mark, what's the meaning of my life? Am I on purpose, or did I screw up in my academics and I want to take a different major or course or school? And because Venus is the ruler of your third house, some of you may prefer to go back to school, but in a sort of shorter educational matter, like more casual education, more skills-based education, rather than the lofty ivory towers of academia. But if you do that, there's all this thrival, abundance, and growth that comes from education. And so keep that in mind as well. I like the fact that you have Mars in your house in a fire sign. I mean, because that gives you a lot of ambition and courage and heart to follow and pursue a path that is deeply mattering to you, because the ninth house is what meaning of life is about. You may declare a new spiritual path regarding faith. You might find yourself joining a new religious temple or something coming off of this. You're looking for deep meaning. And this is a beginning of a regeneration and turning point in that. Now, I'm going to draw a card for you and see what the mystical shaman wants to add as you go into the shadow work phase, or your partner and you, or just your partner, between now and October 14th. It is completion. It is an Ouroboros, a snake eating its tail. And it is card number 9, which is a card of endings. The 9th number means completions. Something wants to complete. Now, the 7th house could be completing a way you interact with an audience, marketplace, or clients. Like you don't want to do one-on-one readings, or you don't want to address those people. My sister's a Leo rising. She may be closing down her Reiki healing practice. She's really good at it, but after being a nurse for 30 years, she's no longer certain that's what she wants to do. That's a classic example of closing down a 7th house story. But if you're in a fraught relationship and it's not right for you, a long-term committed love may be coming to a completion. In the invitation, you have finished a cycle and there's no more growth or benefit from hanging on to the old. In regard to relationships, it might be time to honor what has been and find a new form in the future. And in your ventures, it's time to reap a harvest. Completion is for celebration. It's the end of summer when the fruit is ripe. The medicine, clinging to the old form will only decay. So think of the old form of your relationships or your way you interact with others. Know it is time to move on, yet you are reluctant. Do not be afraid of hurting someone's feelings. Remember that you are responsible for your actions, not the actions of others. Mourn what is lost so you can move on. Do not be sad. Be like the sun at midday who shines brightly, neither longing for sunrise nor dreading the dusk. Okay. Well, I always say when Mars is in someone's sign, this is your scissors, your scalpel, your chainsaw, and what it does is cuts, ends, and severs. Now, typically, it can cut, end, and sever a home, a career path, but it's aimed right at Pluto and the house of relationship. So whether it's a personal relationship or a client audience marketplace, there is a change afoot. Hey, Virgo, sun, moon, and rising. Hey. Pluto in the 6th house. Work. It's like that Britney Spears song, work, bitch. Want a Maserati? Work, bitch. Why? Because this is service and servitude. This is indentured service. This is a house of slavery in the old days. This is where we work. This is our job. And Pluto is transforming, rebirthing, regenerating, renewing, sometimes through crisis and conflict, that part of your chart. Now, he's been here since January 10th. What have you been feeling about the thing called work? It can also be health matters. It can also be pets. It can also be debts. You got a credit card debt. It could also be matters to do with your karmic debt relationships. And finally, it could even have to do with rental property agreements, whether you're the landlord or the tenant. All of that is where Pluto is in his sort of regenerating form. Now, maybe since January 10th, you've been feeling a sense of concern or intensity around those themes. Now, you might have outpictured it like my gnarly coworker, my bad situation in the work environment, my one particular health challenge, my rabid dog or my ill cat. You may have focused it on the situation around those matters. Now, as Pluto goes retrograde through to October 15th, you're going to go inward and look at the shadow element. Inside of you is something about those things you can address in order to profoundly heal. And Venus wants you to go into the most deeply karmic and psychological house. It is the house of the psyche. It is the house of moksha and liberation. It is the house of the most profound karma. It is your 8th house. Now, the Lord of your 8th house of karma is Mars, and he's in the 12th. So there is a connection between addictions, self-undoing, bad patterns, and habits that wants to be released. Venus would also like you to make you wealthy. She would like to give you more money. She's a benefic with Abundantia. This isn't money you're hustling for necessarily, but it could be a sign-on bonus, a severance package. It could be an inheritance. I won't discount any of these things in this kind of a sky. And so what I encourage you to do is know that there is abundance trying to find you, but you must unpack something to do with the idea of working hard. Do you always have to work this hard for the money? Venus rules your hard work of like hustle in the second, but she's not in a hustle. She's in a place where I can't believe I just got a tax rebate that big. I can't believe I got money from my family of origin, like an inheritance or something. I can't believe I ended up with, my spouse's situation so damn good that I don't have to work for a while. So many ways it could happen. Look for the pets. Look for that story too. Maybe there's something about pets returning from the dead and you get a new pet and you recognize it's my passed away dog or cat. That's strange enough. That could come off of the sky. Ability to pay down a debt. literally pay down a debt. Now, when? Well, it may be between now and May 15th. Suddenly there's financial abundance enough that you can pay off a mortgage, a credit card, a loan of some sort. Ultimately, you have to go inward. Go within or go without. Okay, what are your hangups around prosperity and money? Because Pluto is a shadow and he's in a house of servitude. And there's a way in which something to do with financial eighth and second house matters needs to be addressed. Certainly with the Mars in the 12th house of undoing, self-undoing, Pluto in the house of health, you're your own worst health enemy. It's time to let go of any kind of bad habit or physical addiction or bad habit of, even eating ice cream every day at midnight. It's time to let it go. Your card is Jaguar. Jaguar is the card for the mystical shaman for you. Card number 28. Let's see what the invitation and the medicine is for you in this story. Card number 28. I can't wait to see the invitation. Jaguar. And I love that Jaguars are black because the 8th house is a black house. 4, 8, and 12 are moksha, but they're dark houses. They're kind of, we don't get into it. They're 12 and 8 are definitely dark because they're invisible to the native. But let's just say there's a quality of the infinite void, the blackness in houses 12, 4, and 8. So black Jaguar. The Jaguar calls you to explore beyond the walls that confine you and go outside your normal routine and push your limits and boundaries. She delivers an invitation for your own future to investigate the unknown, to venture into the mystery and the dark places that you have been reluctant to explore. You want to talk dark places? We're talking Pluto retrograde shadow stories. Toss all caution to the wind and know your Jaguar instincts will serve you well. Your medicine. What in your life needs to be released? What have you carried around with you for far too long? With Mars where he is, some of it's an addiction and a self-undoing. That you're ready to let go of once and for all. Jaguar medicine is available to heal the fear so you can allow it to go. It's time to come out of the shadows and end the shadow games that you have been unconsciously agreeing to play. Call on Jaguar to unfetter you from toxic relationships, not just to people, by the way, right? To substance abuse in this chart, or workaholism with a Pluto placement. Unfetter from toxic relationships and recover your natural instinct for the right people and the right situations. So in that case, certainly the right work situations as well. Thanks for listening, guys. I'm going to move on before it becomes a darkness here. It's now 3:39 my time on Wednesday the 30th. By the way, Patreon community gets this well ahead of the curve. It gets it before you, probably tomorrow, May 1st. I need my time stamper to get on it, but come join me in the Patreon community. I'm going to have a new inner circle in May, but you can always upgrade once you've joined. And we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of Zoom calls and stuff. All right. So Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Let's be really explicit. Pluto's in your 5th house of romantic love and sexuality. This is your sexual identity stuff. This is your, acting in romantic and sexual pleasure ways. Pluto is to go under the surface. Is a deep invitation to dive deep. And it's also the house of your children. And it's also the house of fertility. And it's also the house of procreative and creative outlets, including art and artistry and the muse and inspiration and entrepreneurial business. He's a god of wealth. Not too shabby, right? You got some money there, but he's also talking to Venus in your 7th house. So he has been going over real estate in your chart that began in January, around January 10th. I'm seeing a UFO cloud out there. You see a cloud that looks just like a UFO and you think, is it a masked UFO? So it's funny that comes through for you. So what is it you've been dealing with romantic love, sexual love, creativity, entrepreneurial instincts and businesses? What have you been going through? And where have you been going into what brings you deep joy and pleasure for real in life? What inspires you? Because that's what Pluto's been unearthing for you since January 10th. But you might have also felt some anxiety or trepidation or fear in this part of your chart. Fear for the safety of your children, fear about getting a sexual disease, fear about romantic love, fear about being able to be an entrepreneur or be an artist or be a creative. So since January 10th, maybe some of these stories have been playing out in the 5th house of true love and romantic love and all the other stuff. And then we can say Venus is talking to Pluto for the power of love. And it is, if you're single, a super sky for meeting someone new in the next 5 months. and addressing your fears of sexual intimacy and commitment in relationship. If you're already with someone, then you address your fears of sexual intimacy and commitment in relationship. If you're already with someone in a long-term relationship, you unearth some deeper levels of intimacy in romantic and sexual love. You might be looking over at your partner, also making some discoveries about themselves in regards to the themes I just outlined, because Venus, Neptune, and Abundantia speak to those stories in the house of the significant other. You want to see yourself as abundant and prosperous with the client audience marketplace because you have work that invites that in. 10th house from the 10th is the 7th, then you may find increasing prosperity through creative and entrepreneurial directions in life. With Mars, the ruler of Venus with Abundantia, Mars is suggesting from the 11th house that you can increase your career gains pretty dramatically and quite successfully by having resolved some kind of tension with regards to how you can operate using your unique talents and gifts in life, your true passion and inspiration for what you wish to do, and being able to fire up on all cylinders some incredible career gains, whether that's more influence, more celebrity, or even more financial gain in your career. Some of that is where the shadow of the next 5 months is going to help you clear through in order to achieve those things. Pluto wants to unearth where your real joy is, where your real inspiration and enthusiasm is. It's not enough just to chase the paper. Venus is the ruler of your sign. She's busy in the house of the audience, the marketplace, and the significant other. Bring her home a bit. Allow her to come back and sit in the Libra sky with you. Because ultimately, if you know what you truly desire, then you know what you desire in love, in work, in creativity, and entrepreneurial love. Entrepreneurial relationships, entrepreneurial businesses. Let's see what the cards have to say for you here. And you've got a chironic wound, most Libra since 2019 with business partnerships and one-on-one love, committed love. And this is really helping you turn that around. Ooh, card 50, the spiral. Now, let's take a look what your message might be from the Mystical Shaman Oracle, card number 50. By the way, I'm a tarot reader. I've been a tarot reader for years and years, guys. I think for fun, I might start a tarot channel. Why? Because I don't have to do astrology. Just for fun. I don't even care if it grows. Just for fun, I might start something. I had an idea for a tarot channel like 3 years ago. I didn't register the domain yet, but I might do it. And just for fun, I might start a tarot channel. Okay, the spiral. The invitation to renew yourself. You must shed your old skin. You have already done this, so do not keep scraping away at the old, but you're welcome to this, but welcome that soft new skin that is starting to grow. Well, snake shedding your skin is so Pluto. Break the habit of working on your faults all the time. Know that a new skin feels vulnerable and scary, but trust the medicine of the spiral as it guide you forward on the journey of renewal. So you're growing a new skin. That kind of makes sense because Venus is the Lord of you in the house of other. And sometimes we only see our shiny new skin and how others mirror back how amazing and shiny we really are. The medicine for you is to go to the descent to the depths, and a rebirth. Allow nothing to get in the way of this process as the time is right and the forces of nature are now supporting you in this rebirth endeavor. Using stones, twigs, yarn, build a spiral on the ground that's large enough to walk through with at least 3 turns. When I was in Egypt years ago, you had to go 3 times around the scarab at Karnak temple in order to be pregnant, and the other way was to be wealthy. And I went on the pregnancy direction 3 times, and I thought I went on the wealth, and I got knocked up and got pregnant a month after I got back from Egypt. And I wasn't trying to get pregnant with my first child. Yes, that's really cool. I was in my late 20s. So enter the spiral slowly. Once you are in the center, offer to the earth the feelings or situations you no longer want in your life. What do you no longer want in your life? I'm saying get rid of what doesn't bring you joy. Inspiration and enthusiasm and childlike wonder. Those are 5th house stories. As you walk the way back, the way you entered the spiral, feel recharged in your new journey. You might want to just do that, guys. We may just try out a little shamanic technique there. All right, we're continuing on. Whoa! I almost screwed up. I almost ended this video and have to patch it together. Okay, so do I want chocolate or can I keep going? I think I need chocolate. I'll be right back. I honestly didn't get enough with the figs and cheese. Okay, that was great. Little dark chocolate with hazelnut inside of it, making me feel extremely grounded. I think that's the hazelnuts. Moving into the next sign, and we're going to get through this, guys. We're finished with Libra, and we're moving into good old Scorpio. Hey, Scorpio, you're pretty good with this Pluto, and you get along. You're modern ruler, and you're ruled by Mars in the ancient tradition. So this is your two rulers are activating in an oppositional energy. And so there's a lot going on in the chart just at the level of rulership. Looks like you're trying to make a change regarding your private life and your work life, your home life and your domestic life versus your public reputation sphere, your ambition and career stories versus your solitude at home alone at night. There's a dynamic tension that pre-exists this retrograde cycle as Pluto gets ready to turn around in your sixth house of work. And he'll turn around here and cover territory he's traveled since the 11th of January. So you're going back over old ground that you've been thinking about or dealing with in the workplace. Now, when I say work, it's probably work with Mars in the 10th house, not your health, but there could be health issues here too. Particularly self-undoing and addictions. Like watch out for that because Venus is a ruler of your 12th house and she's in the house of sickness. So possibly you do things for your body that aren't good for your body by what you're eating, ingesting, drinking, smoking. I don't know. And this is a kind of a course correction time to look into yourself over the course of the next 5 months until about October 5th, 14th, and ask yourself if it's time to quit something that you shouldn't be doing. And literally, in this regard, it could be good for releasing an addiction, especially if that addictive substance or habit comes off of childhood or ancestral stories. Like dad and mom had the same thing, and now I've got it too. I'm going to quit. Now, the other quality of the sixth house is your work house, right? Work, job, service, servitude. Yes, it was the ancient house of slavery, indentured servitude. So maybe you're looking at more clearly. Venus says, I want to enjoy. I want substantial pleasure in my work. I want abundantia. I want abundance and thrival and prosperity in my work. And Chiron says, I want to work on purpose. I want the key to purpose in my work. And Neptune says, are you artistic, musician, filmography, actor, writer? Neptunian things are intersecting. How many of you are really in a professional job or career path that is not satisfying you at a deeper level? And you know that it's off purpose because a lot of you have been investigating the question of, is my career purposeful? Does my work wound me? Do I feel like I'm off my track? If you have an addiction or a health problem, use an alternative practitioner with Chiron and Neptune here and be abundant and thriving and regenerating your health because this is another code for this guy. Now, because you have rental property, to rent a property out to somebody as a landlord or vice versa, to rent a property as a tenant. On a very practical note, that sixth house can represent a profound and transformation, a financial opportunity connected to rentals. I wonder, how have you been investigating your childhood? How have you been looking at your childhood stories at all, if at all, since 2023, when Pluto began to tinker through your fourth house? Sure, he can bring you fourth house wealth. You could sell a property. You could dig up an oil well under your house. You could find gold, in your garden. But technically, he's like unearthing your family of origin, childhood, mother relationship and ancestral stories. And all of that stuff is a deep story that's been going on here. And, since January the 11th, that digging in the garden of your ancestors and your family of origin, he's been busy outpicturing that as anxiety, fear, trouble, worries, power struggles in the home with somebody else that you live with. And now he's going to retrograde until the middle of October, from May 4th to October 14th, and you're going to take it inward. I love this for hypnosis. I love this for seeing practitioners that are healers that help you dive under the surface of some of your own patterns and habits. Mars at the top of the sky can bring you great new successes in your career. I mean, there's no other way to say it. He's passionate. He's big-hearted. He's courageous in Leo. He'll help you courageously end a career path that you don't want. and break away from it, or passionately pursue one that you do want. And as he's up there, like really feisty, working it big time in that career and reputation space, he opens into a flow to Venus and Abundantia, with the god of wealth participating from the roots of the sky. So it's possible, as you unearth some hidden family of origin issues regarding success and career and wealth, that you might find yourself transforming this through till October, where you have some breakthroughs in your money story connected to wealth and ancestry and family and career and work and job. But because the 10th house is the house of the father, Pluto's in the house of the family of origin and legacy wealth, it is a possibility to receive money from a parental figure. And that also can play out between now and October 15th. And you do have Jupiter transiting your 8th house of inheritances. I know you've heard this from me before, but some of you are still in line for some money from the family system coming to you through until June the 9th. So some of this Pluto story could be you unearthing your worthiness to be debt-free, because Venus is in the house of debts. If you're a Scorpio and you're prone to credit card debt, chironic wound ever since 2019, you're turning that story around between now and October 14th. Let's pick a shaman card for you. Let's see what we have. The crow. Well, then my crow has to say hello. Hello, this is your turn to have a crow story. Card number 13, if that's not death and rebirth enough, right? 13 lunations in a year. This is new moons in a year kind of thing. It's a divine feminine number that's been misinterpreted because, of course, the patriarchy was afraid of the feminine, the dark, the mysterious, the left hand of darkness. Good old Ursula Le Guin, being a left-handed person, the left is the feminine side. It was sinister. So don't think of 13 as a scary number. Find it interesting that the Chinese don't like a 13th floor in a building and you don't have the 13th floor. And go watch the movie, The 13th Floor, Scorpios. The invitation. When you speak the truth and practice truth, eventually everything you say becomes true. Your power to co-create with the truth is universal law. Correct in your life, Scorpios, what is untrue without judgment. Let the truth set you free. The medicine. Be true to your word. Crow arrives just as we have convinced ourselves what we are doing is right and justified. Oh my goodness, did I forget to give Libra a card? They're going to kill me. Sorry, Libras. I think I might have. Oh, well. Sorry. Crow just arrived. If I forgot, I'll pin a Libra to the very end. Shite. Be true to your word. Crow arrives just as we have convinced ourselves that we are doing right and justified, that what we're doing is right and what we're doing is justified. And while this may be the case in the realm of relative truth, in the higher realm of absolute truth, it's not true. Look deeply into your heart. Remain alert, lest you convince yourself of something that is not deeply true for you, or perhaps not the highest truth. Don't seduce yourself with illusions like, I can get by, this job's just fine. Okay, and Mars is the lord of your sign and looks by peering into yourself regarding childhood stories, work, self-worth, value, debt, career, ambition. Then you're going to see what is true for you. I think I forgot for Libra. Sorry, Libra. Don't be trolling me on that, eh? All right, Sagittarius. Hey, Sag, sun, moon, rising. You guys are looking at a 5th house and 3rd house Venus power of love vibe. Let's start off with Pluto. I want you to consider your relationship to your aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, nephews, siblings, especially sibling one younger. I want you to consider your relationship to the neighbors in the neighborhood in which you live. I want you to consider your relationship to marketing, selling, communicating, and writing. Pluto in the 3rd house. Now, Pluto here is transformation, death and rebirth, rejuvenation and catharsis. He's working this thing till 2044. I better get used to it. Yes, it could lead to the death of any of those characters I talked about, even the death of a neighbor. But deeper than the outside story is that you've been dealing with since January 10th. You've been dealing with Pluto moving through your 3rd house. And so the ground he's traveling retrograde, May 4th to October 14th is really back over the ground that began to be excavated starting around January 10th. I want you to see what you were doing regarding those peoples and places and things. And the social media and online world is here. You could definitely get rich over the next 10 years or 15 years, until 2044 regarding wealth coming from. Yes, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, siblings, neighbors, but also, the old man down the street who loves you up, dies and gives you an inheritance. That could happen. But in the meantime, what about the energy of the darker shadows that you're uncovering? Are there stories about your childhood connected to siblings or the uncle? And I mean bad stories too, I have to say. You know what I mean? Like improper behavior stories. It's not even to you, just in your family. And you might be digging that stuff up in the next 15 years. But what have you been digging up and angsting about since January? Is it the house of writing? Skills-based education is here. Or is it the neighbor in the neighborhood? Something's not working for you. You're not feeling it. Even travel issues, now that Pluto goes retrograde, you're going to go under the surface to excavate maybe some of this stuff. And of course, Mars across the way puts you pitted against like forces of oppositional energy from visas, passport, travel, courts, and legal affairs, for example. Higher education versus, skills-based college education. Maybe you want to write and publish, and you're coming into a crisis turning point about getting that writing and publishing stuff out of the way. And, you've been worrying about it, thinking about it, dealing with it. Now, with Pluto here, he's talking to the power of love, Venus, Huey Lewis in the news, in the house of romantic love, a singleton, you could meet a very intense, intimate, romantic, regenerative, renewing new person coming into romantic, abundant love with dreamy soulmate energy. That's Venus, Neptune, coming into your sky for single Sagittarius. And that story is available to you in more deeply and truly between now and mid-October. And if you're traveling, you might meet that person through traveling. If you're in educational settings, you might meet them through educational settings. So single Sagittarius, this could bring in a really powerful thrival of new, deep, and intimate love. And there's a way that the person might feel like fam, like just like I'm hanging with my cousins or my siblings. It's just, not in an incestuous way either, just in a friendly way. The energy of Chiron is the chironic wound in the house of romantic and sexual love. And maybe you've been dealing with that more deeply since 2019. And this can be really healing and transforming and rejuvenating and regenerating of some crisis wound that you're not even able to address until now regarding the romantic and sexual love story. It can be a fertility story, an abundance and a thrival if you've been trying to have a child, you or your partner, and you may have some breakthroughs coming off of this. Maybe because you went on a trip and took some downtime from work. When we don't try to have a baby and we're just relaxing, we're on vacay, we get pregnant. Tell me about it. That happened for me. I could also point you to this. You might want to consider your entrepreneurial and creative abilities, and you want to see that they can bring you abundance, especially if you work in writing, publishing, or the online world. Time to lean into that direction. It's time to write, to publish, to be creative, or to be entrepreneurial and allow that to thrive. See more evidence of that to be true, perhaps, over the course of the next 5 months. Pluto here can reveal a secret from a sibling, aunt, uncle, cousin, niece, or nephew. Family secrets could come out of the woodwork. And yes, about sexual energy, I have to say, but that can be really clearing for you to have more abundance and more clarity and beauty and less wounding when it comes to the love life that you have, the romantic life, the sexual life that you have. Again, if you're single, then it's really about meeting someone in which you feel a deep and profound and powerful and transformative love story with a bit of that twin flame soulmate vibe as well, I have to say. Now, I wonder what we have here when it comes to the idea of the Shaman Oracle card. Oh, and you could maybe win a lottery ticket. I'm not going to say don't go crazy here, but with the third house, ninth house, governments and local, kiosks, you could go down to the 7-Eleven, get yourself a ticket. Now, this is a code for the next 5 months, so don't buy a ticket a day and go broke. Let's be serious. This is entertainment value only. This is not my financial guidance, or I'm not trying to get you to go gambling. Let's be serious, okay? Like, I want you to look at your life through the lens of, I'm particularly lucky. And of course, wealth yoga there is wealth in the Neptune and the Venus storyline. So you may have some kind of up level of financial wealth coming up in the story. The wind. The wind. Yeah, I want to sing a song about the wind. You want to sing it with me? Fly like the wind. Na na na. 63. I wish I could sing. I wish I could carry a tune. I am also tone deaf. 63, 63. And I am not at all, upset about that. I didn't come into life with a good singing voice, and I'm all right with that. I have other gifts. Oh, this is huge. I'm not going to read the whole thing. So what I'm going to talk about is just the invitation, because they don't have medicine on. Oh, it does have medicine. The invitation. When the spirit of the wind comes calling, it's a sign of change. You need to change your mind about something. An old way of doing things has become automatic. Time to make a new choice. Regardless of what that change is, you need to understand and have clear communication with others at this time. The medicine. You're being invited to recognize the value of chaos. Windstorms provide necessary chaos to clear the air and spread seeds. So I like the spreading of seeds, because some of you could get pregnant off of this. So new roots can take, seeds, so plants and trees can take root in new fields. Right now, it may seem as if your world has been turned upside down, but a temporary storm will blow over. And maybe communication has broken down between you and another, or your many to-do lists are overwhelming you. The medicine is to simplify, slow down, course correct, wait on the storm to clear up. Just know that all storms have great value and you can remain neutral during their course. Greater clarity and all good things will come from it. Remember, this too shall pass. Well, it's interesting with the idea of storms, right? I mean, in the sense that Pluto is in the environment you daily inhabit, like going to the grocery store, et cetera, et cetera. There's a firestorm in the 9th house across the way. You could have storms in your love life. You could have big winds of change in your romantic love life. So some of you who are single are going to meet someone. Those of you who are with someone are going to have to die and be born again to rejuvenate and re-identify what it is you're trying to create in those long-term love stories. That's an example. Moving on then to the sign of Capricorn. So you Capricorn-y, goaty types, you're going to see the sky opening up, Pluto in the money and wealth house, the earnings and financial resources, the spending and savings of your second. You've got a good chance to get rich here. Oh, yes. Between now and, 2024, when Pluto leaves, if you play the game right, he wants to wealth you up in your financial resources. In the meantime, he's only been here playing lightly. And since January 20th, he has been in January 11th, he's been in a zone of the sky that he's about to go back over between May 4th and October 14th. This is going to have you going away from maybe the money fears. As I said, Pluto can bring up, like, I'm afraid of the dark, right? What are you afraid of about your financial story? Even if you're not consciously afraid of it. Sometimes we have a lot of money, but we're afraid we'll lose our lot of money. Like, I have a lot of money, I'm afraid I'll lose it. Or we have no money, and we're afraid we'll never have any. Whatever is going on in the money story, Pluto can get us in touch with the underworld of our fears. As he retrogrades, you can do the soul work. Instead of having money challenges in the outer surface, you can go inside and reprogram your relationship to money and your values around financial wealth. And you can do this reprogramming through till October the 14th. Partly with Venus, it's a wealth yoga. Venus is sextiling you in a nice flow, and you could have money wealth from land, property, real estate, legacy wealth, inheritances. This could also connect you in some manner to financial abundance coming through the unwinding of childhood stories that have held you back from your truest and greatest financial abundance, the way you have been unable to unplug from your own worst enemy stories. That's a possibility here. I want you to know that. Like, the way that money does or doesn't come to you, sometimes it's some program that you learned as a child that you're not even conscious of. My dad said money doesn't grow on trees, and I always took that to mean, nothing but money is easy. So then I made all the money I had hard, right? Hard to get, hardship with it, not easy. So how can you unwind from something in your childhood that's a chironic wound around the money narrative? Now, if you have a wound about home, because you've been dealing with, I have a chironic wound about where's my true home? Where do I belong? Where do I fit in? Where do I live? I feel like I don't belong in my hometown, in my house. I don't belong where I am. And this wound has been plaguing many, many Capricorns since 2019. And this is a healing, because Chiron is going to flow to Venus with, the Abundantia. connected to home, and Chiron is trying to heal a wound. And so it's possible. Venus does rule your 5th house of lottery wins and also your 10th house of career and reputation. There's a possibility of a kind of breaking down and breaking through some deep childhood crisis around belonging in the home and belonging in the community you live in, and also finding your true home, a dream home, a vision you've always had of where you want to be. I don't know. Neptune says by the water, but Aries says where the rams are butting their horns, maybe in a forest, maybe in a nice warm forest. And like how this works out for each of you is going to be so different. Just know that there's an attempt to gratify your financial story and your home story over the next 5 months. Mars is in the house of chunky money, cutting, ending, severing, fighting for it, inheritances, money that you share with another, spousal support money, division of assets in the end of a relationship, like a marriage. There's a lot going on there. You might be cutting you may be taking investments off the table. You may be shearing away at your stock portfolio. You may be cutting through your retirement savings. That's what's going on in Mars's 8th house story, or battling or getting ready to battle over shared resources in the end of a marriage or something like that. That's all good and dandy, but I love the abundance that Venus is bringing. So if you're going to battle over divorce settlement, you get the house. If you're trying to get some stock investments to pick up and buying on the low, buying on the dip, you might have a surge of abundance in the 4th house because of a stock investment in the next 5 months. Pluto, though, can get you wealthy through a job. You could get a job out of this, and Venus is a ruler of your 10th house of career. So getting employed and increasing your financial success through a work opportunity, and maybe a work opportunity connected to things to do with your home and homeland for any of you who have repatriated or live in another country or expated or something like that. You might be called back to work in the home and homeland, and therefore the abundance arises. I'm going to draw a card for you, and I need my eye drops. Okay, when I stare at a computer, and I know I'm not doing a lot of the blinking you're supposed to do. I know that. If any of you has any I have castor oil on my eyelids. Any dry eye stories that share your great successes, I have genetic inheritance from my dad and years of writing and journalism where I'm staring at a computer and my eyes get so dry when I stare at this with you guys. I'm going to finish you guys, and then I'll go find my drop. So if you have any miracle cures out there for dry eyes that work for you, Capricorn, since you're the ones who's dry, my eyes are dry for, I'd love to hear that. I'd love to work with something that I haven't tried. No, and I don't have mites either. I know people will tell me, oh, you've got mites. No, I don't have the mites on my eyes. All right, here we have it. This is your read from the mystical something oracle deck, shaman, the drum. Ooh, the drum beateth for thee, from whom the drum tolls. Number 15, Capricorn, it is the drum. Number 15. Now we're talking money for you guys, money and home, right? The drum. The invitation. The drum invites you to take the next bold step in your journey. Whew. The forces of heaven and earth are aligned behind you. This is not a time to push against the river. The current will take you exactly where you want to go. Once you jump in, collect your power tools, summon your courage. It's going to be a wild and glorious journey. Well, that 4th house of home and homeland is activated, right? Collect your power tools. Yeah. Allow yourself to be carried by the rhythm of what is essential in your life. You travel to the beat of a different drum. This is your medicine. It's time to acknowledge you do not fit in the mold or in the role or relationship. You do not fit the mold or role or relationship that is not in tune with you. Find your rhythm. Respond to the heartbeat of a distant drum. The price you pay for lingering, and that means what? In any situation in your life that doesn't serve you, becomes higher with each passing day. Now is the time to move on. Well, if you already survived the Mars transit of separation, cutting, and division and divisiveness through the marriage house, now you're in the division of assets section of it. So I don't know, moving on from something, especially the childhood wounds. Moving into your story next, stopping the share, returning briefly. Hallelujah, I'm back. Sustain Ultra. Again, I'm waiting for the tips. All right. I love a community because we can help each other, right? Okay, we're back to the storyline and we're going to finish up our last two signs. I have a feeling this is a 2-hour video. So I hope you guys do like and subscribe because I can't make this any shorter. And this is going to give you a 5-month forecast. So it's got a lot of shelf life, right? Don't forget to check out all my description box offerings. Now, Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising. Hey, I mean, I'm one of you. I'm an Aquarius rising. Sun is your career, moon is your home and nest, and ascendant rising, it's about everything in your life. Now, look. Pluto is helping us with our deepest fears: fear of death, fear of life success failures, fear of illness, fear of career failure, fear of love failure, fear of home failure, anything. Because Pluto is the perspective we are living through, and we're looking at all of our life, fear of our kids' safety, all of that. And as we look through the lens of Pluto at the realities we have, we're coming to terms with deep surrender, transpersonal willpower, evolutionary flow, etc. So we are one big Pluto ball of a hot mess. My rising signs at like 16, 17, 18, I can't remember, somewhere around there. 16 degrees of Aquarius. And so I don't really feel it as heavily as anyone who is a rising sign in the first 5 degrees of Aquarius. You're getting a lot of heat here, right? Or sun or moon. So keeping that in mind, what are you going to go over that you've been dealing with since January 10th as Pluto retrogrades from that part of the sky that you've lived through since January 10th that is going to reenact between May the 4th and October the 14th? You're going to go back over some deeper seated stories that you outpictured, like I've outpictured as gnarly asshole trolls across the way. That's the outpicture of Pluto opposite Mars. That's not what I need to focus on. I need to look at my own inner troll. I need to look at my own inner life and my response to the trolls. I ask myself, why the F I care about the trolls? You see what I'm saying? So whatever's been gnarly over there, your gnarly spouse, your gnarly public, your gnarly audience, shooting swords at you with this Mars dartboard thing going on here. Boom, kaboom, kaboom. Whatever this tension of others that are sharp and edgy and gnarly and confrontational and aggressive towards you, how are you going to go inward instead of outward? Because you can fight those. It's like swatting the mosquitoes when you should go inside and, don an inner mosquito repellent so that even if they are coming, you don't feel them. So you're going to work on the inner realm to diffuse any inner conflicts, because self and other conflicts are actually self and self, just outpictured. I know this. It doesn't mean I'm good at getting rid of it. So when I'm in a place where I'm confronting divisive people in my life, then where am I divided within? So deep soul work here for us Aquarians to go within ourselves and see where the house divided that shall not stand is. Where are we at odds with ourselves? Once we come to unity within ourselves, a lot of the external factors that make us want to fight something out there are no longer present, So, I'd say in my Canadian election, I got really, really motivated to get, cheerleading people around me to vote the same way I would, because, for God's sake, the affordability crisis here is ridiculous. Don't troll me on that. And yet, who cares? I'm not in charge of the story. The universe is unfolding as it will. So where do I think I'm the grand boss of everything, right? So where are you seeing like I'm all dominating and powerful, but you realize you don't have all the control you think you have? Venus is a beautiful placement in the 3rd house, flowing with abundantia to Pluto on the onset. Expect abundance. This is a wealth yoga. Expect abundance to arrive in your life in some form connected to the 3rd house over the course of the next 5 months. This can be through writing, communicating, marketing, selling, skills-based learning and teaching, the online and social media sphere, neighbors and neighborhood. These are positions, and a younger sibling as well. And also aunts, uncles, cousins. All of this equals a flow of luscious abundance and thrival and Pluto and power that you get to ingest directly. I am all powerful. I'm all thrival. I'm all in my A game, right? The fruits of the first, or the fruits of where your sun and moon sit, the fruits are the 3rd house. So the fruits are abundant fruits. It's a full apple tree. It's a luscious pear tree. The pecans, there's no such thing as a pecan tree, the pecans, the olive branches, the olive tree, everything is flourishing. The vine is ripe. So you're having an abundant flourish. Are you writing? Are you communicating? Are you teaching? Are you social media beasting? These are where the flourishings are happening. Chironic wound here since 2019, healing it, writing, social media, teaching, learning. Traveling as well can bring abundance, especially shorter distance travel. But Venus is the ruler of your ninth house of publishing and long distance travel. Is it time to write and publish a book in the next 5 months? Is it time to travel abroad? Will those things bring more luscious abundance and fruitfulness, thrival, and goodness to your reality? Because of Mars across the way ruling what Venus and Abundantia and Neptune are up to. And by the way, Neptune's really good for social media beasts with videography platforms. But because Mars is in the seventh house, a lot of the tension we mentioned is coming from other people. But now Mars would say to Venus, I'm trying to support some abundance in the third house as I aggressively pursue something in the seventh. So you could find yourself reaching a new audience, finding different people who need to hear from you in your writing, communicating, teaching, and other stuff. This is relationship that's committed, and Venus is the goddess of love. There may be a way this could bring an abundant thrival of a relationship that already exists by a change of venue, a new home and a new neighborhood, traveling together, that kind of thing. If you're single, you may meet somebody, a passionate, new, exciting relationship with a very Mars-like character, someone with courage and fire and aggression, and love flourishing because of trips, changes of neighborhood, or things going on regarding the online world. This isn't too shabby for single Aquarians who might want to try a dating app. So don't think that you always have to meet someone in the real world, although you could also just be going to the local pub or restaurant with Venus in the house of the local zone. And if you're single, looking for love, it may be coming your way. Now you have the card, the Earth Keeper, and the Earth Keeper is beautiful. I have no idea what the Earth Keeper is about, but we're going to read it. But one more thing about the astrology. Venus wants peace and Mars wants war. They're in unification here, right? They're working together. And so there's a way that wherever you've been at battle with others, you're able to secure a new peace. And maybe because you have new ideas, maybe because you have a new online platform. I think I'm going to start a tarot channel just because I want to have fun. I already have a name for it. I had it like 5 years ago, and just have a blast. And that could help me heal this kind of vibe I keep bumping into in astrology with really gnarly trolls. So maybe just I want to have more fun, and that would be great. As an example, do I have time for that? Probably not, but I'm going to see if I can do it. You don't suffer fools gladly, right? Pluto is giving you a huge strength against opposing forces, but some of you could find yourself still having to work through why you always want to fight back and dominate those who are throwing swords your way, right? Rather than deflect every sword, maybe put up a iron dome of power around yourself where you don't feel any of this at all. Now, let's go ahead and include your spouse acting gnarly as well. We're going to go ahead and read the Earth Keeper. What number was the Earth Keeper? A number 18. Ooh, that's the moon in the tarot. The shadow work is the moon. Talking about shadow work. Number 8. Did I say 18? Yeah. 18. Here we go. The invitation. You have outgrown your small dream of success. Are you kidding me? Does that ever fit where I'm at? So how do you guys feel in the comments, Aquarians? Would that first line work for you? You've outgrown your small dream of success and achievement and are ready to dream big with possibilities beyond your wildest expectations. Take on the mantle of the Earth Keeper and reach out to a friend in need whom you may not have been in touch with for some time. Take care of your pets and feed the strays that come by. Clean up your yard, as this is a reflection of your relationship to the earth. Grow the sacred dream and your personal life will flourish. Remember, it's not about me any longer. Oh my God. It's not about you any longer. It's not about me any longer, Aquarius. We have Pluto, a transpersonal evolutionary force of divine willpower moving through our sign, through our Aquarian sun, our Aquarian moon, and our Aquarian ascendant. It's not about me anymore. Give up this is exactly that dream. Who are you to play small? This is Rumi. Who are you to play small? You are the universe in ecstatic motion. The medicine. As you care for your body, you show your care for Mother Earth. So begin with stewardship of your health. Tell me about it. I mean, I'm trying to get off my wine lover's middle way. I'm trying to make it the middle way. So I thought I would go, not sober October. What do you call it? I had May. I had May. may I be sober, May, or something like that. I mean, not that like I'm not getting drunk every night or anything, but I want to stop my habit of loving my wine, for example. I mean, drinking a lot of kombucha. What are you putting in your mouth? Are you feeding on foods and thoughts that are not good for you? Foods and thoughts that are not good for me. Start doing what you know will be good for you today. Oh, righty. Well, I do have a like $50 bottle of Sancerre in the fridge. So let me finish that first and then I'll knock it off. Okay. Let me know how that felt for you, fellow Aquarians. Let's finish up with Pisces. Not least, not last. Best and always best. Okay. I should do a t-shirt. Pisces, not least, not last, best and always best. Okay. Now, if you are a Pisces sun, moon, and rising, you have to go into the shadow of your own shadow. There's nothing more shadowy than the 12th house. It is the house of our self-undoing, our own worst enemy, addictions, and all of that. It is the house of past lives. It is the house of the Akashic records. It is the house of our deep unconscious. It's the house of dreams at night, along with the night. I want you to consider that you're heading into deep soul work anyway for the next 18 years with Pluto here. And this is transformative at the most essential level. The moksha of deep spiritual liberation can happen here. With Pluto in this part of your sky, he's going to go over ground. He's traveled about since the 10th of January, and he does activate Mars across the way connected to matters of health. How can you transform your health? And where have you been worried about your health since January 10th? And how can you excavate a lot deeper than just medicine and treatments, but go under the surface of addiction, self-undoing, and health challenges, if you have any, and really excavate the karmic roots and the other layers of unwellness. Now, because of Venus in the earnings house, where you've had a chironic wound around taking in income, having money to save, spending money, this wound may have been here, including racking up credit card debts or any other debts because of Mars in the 6th. You're going to undo this. Between now and October, you may pay down a debt, forfeit a debt. I don't know, declare bankruptcy can be a good way. If you're ready to let go of a debt you'll never be able to pay off. You may also look at the way you wish to earn money and make money from the work you do in a profound way, because Mars is in the house of work and Venus is in the house of earnings, and Pluto is saying wealth it up. And with Venus and Abundantia and Neptune, you can get wealthy through the online platforms where you have videography. You can get wealthy by leaning into a vision or a goal or a dream that's true about how you wish to make money in a deeply spiritual and unconditionally loving and beautiful way. But if you're going to do money, you have abundance from it. It's like it's time to step forward and get that wealth up and running, but you will have excavated between now and October 14th, the roots of your financial disabundance, unabundance, and self-sabotage. Some of that could come, says Venus, because of deep karmatic structures of the 8th house. Some of it could also come because of childhood family situations that you have yet to address. Only because as soon as we activate houses 8 and 12, we must address the fact we have a 4th house narrative. So sometimes things that happen in our childhood hold us back from our greater goodness. Jupiter is traveling the very end of there till June the 9th and can bring wisdom and truth from the house of childhood to unravel your abundance issues connected to being a little kid, taking on lessons from your family that held you back, that you didn't realize you'd like literally by osmosis taken on their financial beliefs or the ancestral wounds. So it's time to unravel that. Clearly, your dietary style can change. What you put in your mouth, what you put in your nose is the energy of the 2nd house. And you have Mars in the house of wellness and sickness. So you're making changes, cutting new exercise patterns and new habits into being. For Mars is the exercise guy in your 6th house in his joy. But he's also talking to Venus and he's like, okay, we're going to thrive because we're getting healthy, and you're going to start to eat shit that's good for you, or stop putting things in your mouth and nose that are bad for you. And this is a real nice chart for you discovering the new healthy style for exercise and food style that's going to serve you in a really profound way, because sometimes the way we don't have our money ducks in a row is the way we also treat ourselves badly. For self-undoing, self-sabotage, bad eating and habits and patterns and styles of food style are all interconnected. If you're not nourishing your money, you're often not nourishing yourself. And I don't mean you're down and out in a hardship. There's one thing to lose a job and have to scrabble. But for some of you, you've had a chironic wound around your face, your teeth, your nose, your appearance, your food style, what goes in and out your nose and mouth, and also with your earnings. All of these are interconnected. This is the house of the voice, vocation, and calling. Where is your voice in the world wounded? Where do you want to express your voice in a way that brings you abundance? Because in order to have a vocation, we need a calling and a vocari and a voice and a calling and a vocation are one and the same by the Latin root word. So you're coming into alignment with right work and service that increases your abundance over the course of the next 5 months until mid-October. Certainly you can get a job, or if you're entrepreneurial, create your own income in this manner through the summer, through until October 14th. You have a card called the Tree of Life. The Tree of Life sounds good to me. It's a 58th card in the deck. We're coming to the end of the deck. So close to the end, 58th card, and let's tell you your medicine and your invitation to find health and balance in your life. I just told you it's all about health. I'm going to do it on my own tarot channel. Let me know if you want that. I'm not going to tell you the name of it because I have to register the domain, but it's a fun concept. The invitation to find health and balance in your life. I'm often jealous of tarot readers. I have to do all this astrological research and they just have to shuffle the damn cards. Why am I taking the hard route? You all come to the same conclusion at the end of the day. To find health and balance in your life and reflect on how you dance with your actions and your thoughts and your feelings. If you are too much in your thinking head or in a world of fantasy and daydreaming, connect more with the roots in the physical body. And if you're caught in mechanical doing and feeling stuck, not able to imagine a better life for yourself, open up to inspiration from the heavens. Let your roots and branches be aligned with your heart's belonging. Remember, I said it's time to change your relationship to your childhood wounds, your roots, about abundance and worthiness around money and riches. The medicine. What nutrients do you need to add to your soil and grow strong? The seed of the oak will not grow on barren ground without the light of the sun. What dreams do you want to awaken to create a mindful destiny? Reflect on how you want to blossom, the kind of fruit you want to produce, and where you want to sow your new seeds. Be a conscious creator. Well, third from Pluto is the fruit-bearing house. 12, 1, 2, right? That's 3 houses from Pluto. What are the fruit that you wish to bring into this world on the tree of life that gives you financial success as well as better health? Thank you, Pisces. Don't forget, everyone, to check my description box. Come join me in Sky Reader mid-June to end of July. It's not open yet. You can enroll, but you can get on the early bird wait list below. You can check out the course description below in the description box, or I'll try to remember maybe to pin it in the comments. And this is April 30th. And if you want to be in my Patreon community, we're getting this tomorrow before the public. No ads ever, ad-free, always timestamped. So maybe check that out as well. And of course, everything else about me and my website is all in the description box. People email me like, how much do you charge? Everything's in my description box below the video, including my website. Bye, everyone. Take care.